Good afternoon. This is the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners for October 9th, 2018. We're here to hear for a public hearing. And the public hearing is to approve the ordinance amending Thurston County Code Section 15.12 concerning water and sewer rates and charges and other minor changes for Grand Mound, Boston Harbor, Tamoshan, Beverly Beach, and Olympic View. The purpose is for Thurston County Code Section 15.12 provides for annual adjustments to the rates, charges, fees for the county's water and sewer utilities. Due to rises in indirect and direct costs of the required capital improvements, it is necessary to increase the rates for water and sewer to customers in 2019 and 2020. Public Works recommends Grand Mound, Olympic View, and Tamoshan water and sewer and Boston Harbor sewer increases rates by 5% each year. Public Works also recommends Boston Harbor water-based rates increase by 20% each year and the usage rate increase by 20% in 2019 and 5% in 2020. Public Works also recommends fees associated with the new connections in Grand Mound increase by 4.5%. These include general facility charges, additional capacity charges, and service extension charges. The Utility Services Manager has provided all sewer and water customers with notification of the proposed increases through mailing, discussion with the utility advisory committees, and open house meetings in the community. So with that in mind, that's what we're here for. There's a sign-in sheet at the back, and for those who've signed in, I'll have Labanita Romero bring it to the front, and then ask you to come to address the podium. And when you do, you have 3 minutes, and I ask you to state your first and last name and where you're at, generally from the county where you reside at. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Teresa Parsons, who's a staff member, to come to the podium and give us a little some background on the rates and locations and the intent of this, so that we can have a discussion, perhaps, and question and answers. And then I'll go forward with the public hearing portion of the public testimony. So, Teresa?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for being here tonight. I'd like to also take the opportunity to introduce a couple of people who are here tonight. We have Mr. Ernie Stromsdorfer. He's a Tamoshan Utility Advisory Committee, he's the head. We have Nancy Connery, and she's on the Boston Harbor Utility Advisory Committee. And then other staff are County Engineer Scott Lindblom, Staff Engineer Dave Johnson, Amanda Landon is a utility accountant, Karen Weiss is the financial manager, and of course the Director of Public Works, Jennifer Walker. So, as you stated, the purpose of this hearing is to take testimony regarding proposed amendments to Thurston County Code Section 1512 concerning water and sewer utility rates and charges for the 4 communities that the county serves with water and or sewer. They include Grand Mound, Boston Harbor, Tamoshan, and Olympic View. Tamoshan also serves sewer to Beverly Beach. It is required that a public hearing be held for you, the board, to receive comments on this proposal, and that if you decide to approve changes to the rates and charges, that you adopt code revisions. Tonight is the customer's opportunity to let you hear their comments regarding this proposal. Any code changes will be done, as I understand it, through the budget process, which will be at a later date. To start out with, I'd like to touch base on the public outreach. There is a requirement, legal requirement, that notice be given and be published in the local newspaper twice, with the first publication being 20 days prior to the hearing. Notice of this public hearing was published in the Olympian on September 19th and September 26th. In addition, the following public outreach was done to ensure customers were notified of the proposed rate and fee increase and to let them know about the hearing. Starting with August's utility billing, A flyer was included notifying each customer of a community meeting to discuss these proposed changes. The public meetings were held in September. Tamoshan's was on September 18th, Boston Harbor's was on September 20th, Grand Mound's was on September 22nd, and Olympic View's was on September 26th. We sent out postcards to all of the customers, notifying them of a public hearing regarding rate and charge changes. Unfortunately, it went out before a thorough review, and it had some information that was not included that was intended to be included, such as the time and date. We also had a link to a website. It wasn't the exact proper web link. However, if you go to the Public Works website, all of the information that I have talked about or will talk about is posted on there and has been for a month. Once we realized that there was an error on the postcards, we went ahead and gathered all of the email addresses that we did have for the customers. We have about 800 utility customers, and they had about 383 emails, and an email was sent out to everybody saying, we apologize, here's what's going on, and contact us if you have any questions. All of the information regarding the proposed code amendments and public outreach was posted on the website. As part of the community meetings, we had put together a brochure of information that explains what the rates would cover, what the financial forecasts for each community is, and some other information. And that's also available online. It was handed out at all of these meetings. I think Ernie and Nancy each have one right here, each for their communities. We did receive 5 comments on the website, and there were 2 people that commented and said the postcard didn't have the information. One person in Boston Harbor submitted a protest. He wanted to make sure that you knew that. One person in Grand Mound, the same, protested, and one person in Tamoshan submitted a comment in support. And I have all of these here. I can read them all. I can give them to you, or I can give them to Labanita later.
Just give them to her. We'll read them
Okay.
as we need them.
Okay. Yeah. So, according to section 15.12.080B1, the current code allows and provides for the reevaluation on an annual basis of rates and charges. I can read you the section of the code if you'd like to hear that. I'm assuming not. The proposed changes, as Commissioner Blake read, include a request to increase the water usage and base rates for both 2019 and 2020 for Grand Mound and Tamoshan by 5% each year. Increase sewer rates in 2019 and 2020 for Grand Mound, Tamoshan, Beverly Beach, Boston Harbor, and Olympic View by 5% each year. Increase water base rates in 2019 and 2020 for Boston Harbor by 20% each year. And the reason for that increase, such a large increase, is because after Karen and Amanda had done some thorough financial analysis, it was discovered that the water rates in Boston Harbor were not even paying for operations and maintenance, let alone any reserve or any capital projects. And they were quite low compared to the other utilities. We are also asking to amend the table in section 15.12.035 regarding equivalent extension charges in Grand Mound by 4.5% each of the year of 2019 and 2020. And that is if
Oh, wow.
somebody wants to extend outside of the
Has all
urban
the rates
or
that she
the
talked about.
ULID boundary. Increase the connection charges in table 1512-010 for Grand Mound general facilities charges. Those are connection charges. So there is a one sheet overall spreadsheet that shows all of these changes and what the dollar amount is. We gave it to you at our board briefing the other day, but we've got extra copies if anybody would like to see that again.
It's all right.
Okay. Amend the language in sections 1512-080, sections B3A and B4, tying the increase in the service extension charges, which are tied to development, to be consistent with the construction cost index published by Engineering News Record. That's what other code increases are tied to. We have not increased these in 20 years, so we thought it was appropriate to tie it to the same index. Amend the language in 1512-080B3 to include as published in section 1512-010 because the ACC charges, additional capacity charges, do say that they need to be increased by the construction cost index published by the Engineering News Record, but there's also a table that has those, so we just wanted to tie them together. And then update the dates in the title of the tables showing the rates to say there's a chart for 2019 and a chart for 2020. Are there any questions?
Yep.
Yep, have a question?
Mhm.
One question.
Is there any reason that the PUD doesn't provide water for these particular areas, Thurston PUD? I mean, instead of the county, I mean, why are, I don't know, are we doubling up on?
There's a bit of a history there, and I'll try to keep it short, although
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
not
long
known for
history.
brevity. Sorry, Commissioner Blake. When these systems were acquired or constructed, as in Grand Mound's case by the county, the PUD didn't operate all of the water systems that they do today. They just weren't in that big of a business. And they approached the commission a couple years ago about looking into acquiring sewer and water. But because of circumstances, they went forward and acquired another big water provider who had 150 or some such number of water systems. That was all they could tackle at that moment, and they just did that at the beginning of this year. And they're also not in the sewer business, which takes a vote of the people to increase their authority. And really, sewer and water should be acquired together because they're so interconnected. So there were several reasons that it, at this point, wasn't practical.
Right. You have a question?
I do, and you don't have to give me exact numbers, but you said there's about 800 or so folks in these areas, isn't that
Yeah,
it?
total customers,
Total.
round numbers.
And we have to give at least 20 days notice, and it sounds like we had it noticed in the newspaper timely enough. And do you know about when, Teresa, when the emails went out and when the postcard was mailed?
The emails went out a week ago, but the legal requirement is to publish it 20
Publish it.
days
Okay.
before in the newspaper, which we did. What we were trying to do was the extra outreach, and we stumbled on that.
So we met the legal requirement
did.
of a month ago or 3 weeks
Yes.
ago or so.
And every
Okay.
customer and every property owner received in their August billing, which they get about the first week of September, this notice. We have community meetings. You know, we met with communities. We've met with advisory
Okay.
committees. We've posted everything online. So,
Because with that many customers, and we only have a small percentage here, I want to be sure that enough people knew this was happening tonight, the location, the date, and the time. But I'm glad to know that we're required. The requirement's done. We've met the requirement, but I was just concerned about that. Thank you.
All right.
If we do something on these rates and charges, did we meet all of our legal requirements? You made mention of we didn't get something on a postcard or something like that. But does that put us in a legal problem if we do something? Can we be, say somebody doesn't like it, can they bring action against us and that's a technicality that we didn't meet? So do we need to redo that to get it right before we move forward, or are we going to be okay?
There's no legal requirement. We are okay.
You were just going the extra mile?
We were just going the extra mile.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification.
Anything else? Teresa? Romero? All righty. So with that, I'll ask if there's any sign-in sheets, just to double check. Nobody's signed in? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to come to the podium to address the board, just to make sure?
Anyone? Yeah, we got
Okay,
a couple.
so, okay, sir, you come up first, and then I need a sign-in sheet. So, and for the record, could you state your first and last name and where you're from in the county generally?
James Gear. I'm the president of Olympic View Water Association. Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. What I'd like to propose from Olympic View's perspective is that if you look at historical rates versus the projected budget, it's increased pretty dramatically, and we're looking at a 5% increase per year for the next 2 years. There's some it feels a little bit arbitrary from and I respect the county coming out and talking to us. Teresa, they did a great job. I think lately we've seen a very good approach to some deferred maintenance unintentionally, but we don't have a good sound understanding of true cost from our perspective. So what I'd like to propose would be perhaps 5% instead for over the course of 2 years, rather than 5% and then 5% again in 2020. We understand there are some additional costs. We can reevaluate every year once we get a better feeling for exactly what it's costing to run our operation in Olympic View.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about the sneeze. Thank you so much for your words, sir. Is there another hand by chance? Sir, yeah, come to the podium, please. Yeah, and your first and last name?
My name is Larry Johnson.
All righty, Larry. And where are you from in the county?
Pardon me?
Where are you from in the county? Just
I live in the northeast part of the county, but
okay.
we have a small business, Puget Development, that owns 2 lots down in Rochester. And on the we've developed the 2 lots into 3 rental units that we rent down there. And so we get some feedback from the tenants that live down there because they have to pay the utilities. When we develop the properties, we try to landscape them nicely, and we put in sprinkler systems to keep the landscaping green and nice looking and so forth. So the tenant, no matter what the tenant does, the place still looks nice for the community overall. Our tenants comment to me every once in a while about the cost of the base rate in the Grand Mound area, in the Rochester area. Currently, the base rate for sewer and water combined comes out to a little over $124. And comparing that to, say, Lacey, the base rate for sewer and water in Lacey is about $75. So I'm just letting you know of our concern about the cost of the utilities and just trying to encourage, lower rates and cost savings as much as possible.
Yes, sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for your words, sir. All righty, just by a show of hand, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to come to the podium to address the board? Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. And your name, sir?
My name is Ernie Strausdorfer. I'm a resident of Tamoshan, and I'm the chair of the Utility Committee of several other individuals' membership. Actually, I'm speaking in support of the 5% increase for Tamoshan this year and next year. If you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics database, you'll find information on labor costs for utility systems, labor costs for government employees, state and local, data of that nature. And so I checked out the wage rate increases and the benefit increases of these types of workers in the United States. And there was also a Battelle study of utility rates increases and water rate increases for major cities in the Northwest, including Seattle and Portland. The short story is that the nationwide average increases in wage rates and labor costs run around 4% a year. And for Portland, it was not quite 7% increase in the most recent period measured, 2015, I believe, 2016. I had a paper with me and I left it at home with the citations, but I will send a copy of the paper to my colleague here on my left. In any case, the rates you could expect Olympia and Pullman, Olympia rather, and Tamoshan being sort of midway between the labor markets of Seattle and Portland, that when we bid for labor in our community area in Thurston County, you're bidding also against the wage rates that are being offered in communities like Seattle and, of course, Tacoma and, of course, Portland and what have you. So these rates for Tamoshan and Beverly Beach at 5% seem reasonable, and we're looking forward to the further service based upon this contribution by the community to the welfare of our sewage and utility operation. Thank you.
Thank you for your words, sir. Very kind of you. Is there anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Connery. I'm a member of the Boston Harbor Water and Sewer Advisory Committee. Obviously, there isn't a whole lot of popularity about the 20% increase in Boston Harbor. But I want to tell you, though, in fairness, because we have worked with the Public Works staff for the last, I've been only on the board for a couple of years now, but they have worked very hard to help us understand why this becomes essential. And the fact is that this system is a very one-off operation. You all basically, not you personally, but the county helped to provide in the face of a very crucial emergency, pollution emergency in Boston Harbor, a system which has actually served us very well for quite a few years now. It's getting old. It's had somewhat uneven management, but most recently, and I can say this with some confidence, I've spent a lot of years in my public service life in public works, that they have done a very, very fine job with a very, meager resources. But in fact, it will never be as cost effective as a large system that's consolidated with the density of Olympia or Lacey or Tumwater or any other city operation. But to the extent that it's been continued with I think with great care and with a very earnest effort to help us understand why these costs have come into place, and the effort to bring it in closer to more recent management, particularly in terms of asset management and support. And we really are anxious for that to be put in place. It's a chunk of money in the front end, but I think it will give us a much clearer picture of the condition of that system and more strategic choices that we can make perhaps to, to enhance it. But the main thing is a 25 or so year old system is reaching, in many cases, the end of its engineered life, and it isn't going to fail necessarily catastrophically, but it'll start to erode, and the idea is to stem that erosion before those costs start to spiral up. We know that we're going to have to pay more money, bringing our rates up to the point where they're covering costs, but also putting away some cash so that that capital investment doesn't have to be such a big gulp when it finally needs to be made. I just want to thank you all for supporting that effort among your staff and for the care that they have, demonstrated to us to keep that system running well. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you so much, ma'am. Just for sake, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to come to the podium? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the next portion. What?
Is there any chance I could ask Teresa?
Yes, you can ask Teresa, sure.
Teresa, could you tell me of the 5% increase and the 20% increase, what would have it been had you not come to us for a rate increase? Would have it been like a CPI thing, like 3%, or?
There would have been no increase.
There'd been no increase whatsoever, huh? So this increase is required to have this hearing for this ordinance, for this adjustment. And we had a hearing earlier today, and it seemed like part of what they talked about was they're going to go up 3% anyway, and we're going to go up, 4% more or something to make it 7%. So I just wanted to make sure. So you go along for years at a time without any kind of an increase?
There's been some history of that and fits and starts, and it causes issues. One is that once you finally realize how far in the hole you are, that you do a very big jump, it's usually better business practice to do a consistent increase every year. And also it puts you way behind in being able to keep things running properly.
Well, if we make incremental increases, can we have it in the ordinance so that we don't have to do this again, that we have cost of living increases or something like that? And I know we have to catch up at some point, it sounds like, but I don't want to have it continually be 20% or continually 5%. So is that? Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
And just for clarification, the example you gave of the incremental 3% plus 7%, whatever that we heard today, is on a completely different issue, not this one. Not
right.
This one. I don't want
I don't want people mixed up.
anybody watching this. I don't want to think that was the
That's
same
why
one.
I'm questioning it. Yeah.
That was the framework for that particular issue.
Yes, different issue.
All right, thank you, Teresa. Any other questions?
No, I do not.
No, thank you. All right, what's the mood of the board? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and so we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the public hearing of October 9, 2018.
So the public knows, before we're going to look into this a little more, right?
Yeah, this is what
I
this
just
is
want
about.
the public to know that. Okay,
We
second.
need more analysis.
Yes, we need more of that. There you go.
More discussion, more analysis, sure.
Second.
It's been moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, and we are adjourned.